Welcome out there, sports fans. Welcome to our podcast today. Champions are built. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
And it's Coach Aaron, the source. Good morning, guys. EJ, what's on tap for this morning?
Hey, Aaron, I tell you, celebrations. What is all the celebrations about these days? You have guys celebrating when they hit a home run and their team is down by 20 runs. You got celebrations when they cross the finish line and they finish fourth place and they're doing all these gyrations and dances. You have guys doing the gritty when they just make a basket. I mean, why all of the just constant in your face, hey, look at me, what happened to the sport, the love of the sport, the love of the game, the team element? Celebrations. Are they really needed? What happened to the celebration after the game-winning walk-off home run? Not about just the single. I mean, I'm talking about a real celebration where the guy hits a home run and they win a game and it's a big deal. Now it's like they're doing this stuff when it's like the third inning and they're down by 10 runs, man. The guys out there doing stuff and all they jump up together in the group and they go boom. I mean, what are we doing, Aaron, with all this in all sports now? Why is it so prevalent? What's the reason behind it? I think we should just do a little deep dive into this a little bit. It's kind of funny, it's kind of hilarious, but that's a topic we should talk about.
Well, yeah, I think there might be three things if I can remember all three, but they just kind of came to mind when you're talking. One, I think, is this is a generation that grew up on the rainbow and unicorn stickers. I think this generation, for good or bad, is used to a lot of praise being heaped on them for what we might consider what's already expected, what's mundane or mediocre performance. So that's my sociological take.
Right.
Second thought that I have is it's clicks.
Oh, right.
It's clicks. People are looking for clicks. They want that viral moment. They want that TikTok moment. Everything is a snapshot and a moment in time on social media. And of course, what better to put up than a celebration? Even though, like you said, you're down 20-1.
Right. Exactly, right?
Yeah. And then lastly, you kind of touched on it, the look at me mentality. I guess more specifically, the brand that I think that's how athletes think they're branding themselves. In other words, the more commercialization of sports and athletes trying to become personalities outside of beyond being an athlete. I see it in track and field with the Olympics now.
Yeah.
And maybe if you follow other sports, you might feel the same way. But track and field is not necessarily a mainstream sport. But obviously, when the Olympics comes around, there's a big push to put certain athletes out there. And I just think it looks forced to me. And I think it seems like these guys are trying to be more personalities than just athletes. And again, maybe that's just how sports are, and that's how these athletes, you want to make their living maybe beyond sports. But those are kind of the three key things that I see going on. I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and they were talking about the Olympics and track and field, and they've got Snoop Dogg and Kevin Hart, and it's like, outside of track and field, I like those guys, but I don't know if they really are bringing anything to the broadcast. But again, I'm a purist of the sport. I'm an insider of the sport, and I'm not a pedestrian consumer who's just watching the sport because it's the Olympics. So maybe, there is some value in what they're doing and what they're bringing, and maybe it brings some more excitement and, things like that. And maybe what it is just to get eyeballs, because I think that's kind of what TV is all about. It's not
Mhm.
to I guess it's to entertain, but viewership I think is the number one thing. So again,
Mhm.
it's eyeballs over substance. So, but part of me says, well, hey, there's a lot of track and field athletes who have great personalities, who would be great on camera,
Right.
who don't have, of course, the downside is, yeah, maybe they don't have millions of followers, and maybe that's what they're trying to leverage. So I don't
Right.
know. It's mixed emotions, but it just seems like they're trying too hard, but it can
Mhm.
feel a little insulting. I don't know. I mean, if you're watching the World Series and they put on, I don't know, what is that guy? Who's the comedian? Dave, Tim the Toolman Taylor,
Oh, yeah, exactly,
It's
right?
like, what's this guy doing here?
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
But again, it trickles down to youth sports. And that's kind
absolutely.
of where, if I'm going to have an issue, it's probably more of that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, some opening thoughts.
I think it's good. I look at it this way, Aaron, and you're right. I think the youth sports is all entertainment. But I'm gonna go back to this question: is sports becoming really entertainment now? I mean, you said something about the Olympics with Snoop Dogg. I looked at him yesterday, and him and Mike Triaco's got a little desk, and they put Snoop in his sports coat with NBC, and it's almost like a mockery to the games anymore. Like instead of it having such a high prestige, it's like okay, it's just and it's funny now. Is it
Yeah,
is it as serious as it really is? Is it about money from the entertainment standpoint? And there's so much money in the game that there's all this, you know,
yeah,
sponsorships and stuff like that. What happened to the sport? The sports, it seems like in sports, the sport is leaving the game.
yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny.
Like the presence of, I
I,
think sports leaving the game, man, sometimes. What are we doing? That's what I'm saying. What's going on with the beauty of the sport, the art of the sport? Where's that going now? That doesn't seem like, are people, you look at different running styles. And I think track and field is fascinating to me, Aaron, because I watch guys in their running styles, and that was so entertaining to me to watch. Like, how could Michael Johnson run different than Carl Lewis? What makes him, and Usain Bolt? And I was always just looking at that like that's an art, man. What's happening to the art of all the sports?
well, I think and it's funny you mentioned this because, again, I was having that conversation with a friend of mine just the other day, and I just basically said, it's like it's the dumbing down of sports. And in track and field, it's been the whole push for the medal count. How many gold medals? How many? And you can see, of course, watching the Olympics this morning. Oh, the medal count is, China has 3 gold medals, US has 2. And again, maybe because you've got mainstream media who's not necessarily in the weeds on these sports and can't really talk much more about them other than the surface stuff like medal counts. But there's no attempt
Right.
to educate the public on the sport and what's good competition. What does good competition look like? Like I said, in track and field, they fed, the consumers so much about just gold medals, world records, things like that. People can't appreciate a great competition that doesn't, result in a world record. And I was reading a short thing this morning on Katie Ledecky where she got beaten like the 400
Yeah.
something swim. And she's one of the most decorated swimmers. And how could she get beat? And this other girl from Australia who beat her, she was a very good athlete in her own right and had beat her before in the
Right.
last Olympics. And of course, they go through Twitter and all that sort of thing. And people's comments are like, what happened? And why didn't she get gold? And what's going on? And it's
Yeah.
like, she got a bronze medal in the Olympics. And she's not even at her best events yet. But you get this kind of expectation that isn't unrealistic. And So, and I think the girl who won either did an Olympic record or world record, and the appreciation for that performance goes out the window, you know?
Right. Right. I
And
mean,
there's a girl who was in second who also beat Ledecky, who had a really great time and was really competitive with the leader. So it's that kind of stuff that they've kind of laid the groundwork for those type of, I don't want to say ignorant, but uninformed responses to good athletic performances where they're not appreciated.
right.
And maybe that's going down now to the youth stuff, whereas if it's not spectacular, it's not appreciative. So I don't know. I mean, baseball went through it for a time with the Bash brothers and everyone wanting to see home runs. And
That was fun, by the way.
yeah, yeah, it was.
It was
Um,
fun. It was fun because you know what? It was fun because you had these athletes hitting the ball really hard.
yeah,
And then they started talking how did they hit the ball so hard? And no one was talking about launch angle then. And I
right.
thought that was the most interesting thing, not to get off subject with you. I didn't mean to interrupt you with that,
Yeah.
but I mean,
But my question to that is, my statement to that is, was it sustainable? No, it wasn't. Okay, so how can any of this stuff be sustainable without manipulating the sport? So now are we manipulating the sport for the consumer value of it, or are we trying to stay true to the roots of the sport? So if that was the case, why don't they just make the ball lighter or whatever they need to do, or why don't they just fix the bats so that you're just getting more home runs, you
mm-hmm,
know?
mm-hmm,
Just give
mm-hmm.
it, and then it's still a level playing field if everyone still has a hot bat, right? They'll
Right.
see more home runs. So why didn't baseball, do that? There's timing clocks and all these other things now, um, that where they're trying to make the game shorter and all these manipulations to make it more consumer friendly.
Entertaining.
Yeah, more entertaining.
Right. Entertain. It's sports entertainment. Goes back to what I said. The opening question is sports becoming more entertainment? And is sports becoming all about instant gratification right away to keep what you say eyeballs on the sport
Right.
or
Yeah, I think
eyeballs
it
in
is.
the
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, I think it is too. I 100% with you with that. I mean, Major League Baseball shortened the fences, Aaron. I
yeah.
mean,
Well, that's
when I was
exactly.
playing back in the day, you had these big fields, 345 down the lines, 330 was considered a small field down the lines, and the alleys were 385 and 405, 410. That was the norm. Now that's not the norm.
Hmm.
You're talking short 310 down the line. Weird configuration. So you could have pull hitters hitting the ball out of New Yankee Stadium versus, here you are in Houston with a railroad in the back. I mean, a railroad station in the back, and they're doing things to make it entertaining for the average consumer. It goes back to your story about the decorated athlete, and it's not her best sport, and she wins third base, and third place, and runs a bronze in a sport where she's not there. That's not her best event.
Yeah.
But that should be something needs to be said, like, hey, that's not her best event, but what amazing feat. She won a bronze medal, and these other two girls who beat her before are really great swimmers.
Yeah.
Like, appreciate that world record, that personal best. What happened to that? And it goes back to a subject that you is that on television, are we not getting the right people talking about the art of the sport? The Olympic heroes who have gone through that, telling this is what makes this sport unique, and this is what you have to do to become good at that. Those stories to me were entertaining, and also it gave you a sense of what it took to be an Olympic athlete, or to be a Major League Baseball player, or to be a basketball player. Those commentators, those ex-athletes, those people who were authorities in the sport, it was about that. And it goes back to celebrations, instant gratification. What's cool about Snoop Dogg? Look, Snoop Dogg's got his USA stuff on and talking about the national anthem, and how it made him feel, and he's with his family, and it looked like hope sometimes. I
Hmm.
thought it was entertainment. Is this serious? Or is
Yeah.
this a joke? Or is this supposed to be comedy? It's all about now.
Yeah. It's kind of like it gives me that Good Morning America feel. You know, it kind of had that feel. Quasi serious, quasi light, Um, but
Right.
like I said, for again, maybe for someone like me who's more in the weeds on sports and is looking for something a little bit more meaty, maybe a little more heady. But again, to kind of tie it back into what we're talking about, what effect that has on youth sports and what do athletes think is important in terms of presentation and watching and how they're acting out on the field. And yeah, I think all of that media drives, they mimic what they see. And if that's kind of what they're seeing on TV, then they're thinking that's what wants to be seen or that's what's important. And so, that's what they do. Um, I don't know.
Right. I think you're right. Aaron, I've got a prediction, Aaron. I think this is pretty entertaining. If you watch Major League Baseball, these guys got different color belts now, and they're shiny and they're all that stuff. That will be in the youth game within the next year.
I
These
didn't realize that. Do
belts
they
guys
really?
wear. Yeah, we watch Major League Baseball players. I think this within the next year, this is going to captivate the audience at the youth. And it's the belts that they wear. Remember, it was the mitts that they were sliding mitts they wear
Right,
when they
right, right.
slide? Watch, you'll see a presence of a belt now, and you will see young players having these special belts with their initials on it and these funky colors that are different. That's the next thing in youth sports. And I'm telling you, it's all about that celebration, man. Celebrate my belt, celebrate my sliding mitt. I've got 3 sliding mitts. Hey, I'm not hat, everything like that. My shoes. It's all about that instant gratification. And you're right, it's manifesting down to youth sports. And is it really making the sport an art, or is it making it just entertainment? My 2 cents.
Well said, my friend.
Yes. With that said, this is the brand. Eric Johnson signing off on Champions Are Built with
Aaron Thigpen, the source. We'll see you.